Everyone focuses on profit. How much money could I make monthly with Airbnb? But think about all the expenses you have too. We used to say, like in business, revenue feeds the ego, profit feeds the family. Today, we're talking about why I chose multifamily real estate investing over Airbnb. And the first thing I really want to say with this is personal preference, right? Let your personal, because I know I'm going to get a lot of hate on this of like, well, Airbnb is this, Airbnb is that. But right now, especially Airbnb is under a bit of scrutiny. I don't know if you've heard about it. Certain cities are like coming down with regulations and like they're tightening up around Airbnb. Have you heard about that?
I actually haven't.
Yeah, they're getting a little bit more involved, And we're going to just go through a couple points here today about why I chose multifamily over Airbnb. But again, do your own homework, do your own due diligence, and pick what's best for you.
Would you ever do Airbnb?
No. Personally, okay, I'll never say never, but personally, as of today, no, it's a completely different business model. The first thing that comes up with that is I invest in my backyard. I invest in Michigan, okay? Michigan is not a big travel destination, right? You have to look at like, where's my customer coming from and what's my business model? You can definitely make a lot more money doing Airbnb, like monthly income compared to like a long-term rental. And my piece of advice is this: if you are going to do Airbnb, CYA, cover your booty and make sure it at least will cash flow as a long-term rental. That way, if a brand new hotel comes up in the neighborhood or they ban Airbnb in your neighborhood or whatever, you just can't get it rented, at least you know you're not stuck with this piece of property that can't cash flow. For me, I want to view real estate as a way to get really wealthy, really slow. I'm not trying to make a bunch of money really, really quickly, but then deal with vacancy and deal with turnover. I like when I put a tenant in there, Nick, I know they're there for at least 12 months. I don't have to worry about turnover. I don't have to worry about who's coming in and out of my property. We actually had a woman who did what's called Airbnb arbitrage. You know what that is?
I do. Yeah, I wanted you to talk about this actually.
I bought an 8-unit apartment. She rented 4 of the units. She then Airbnb'd those 4 units out and made a profit. So isn't that crazy? She paid me rent. She didn't pay any of the utilities, right? Like we paid all that. She paid me rent. Let's say she paid $1,000 a month, but then she made $2,000 a month every month renting that out with Airbnb. What do you think the problem was? So you've got 8 units. 4 of those are Airbnb. 4 of those are regular 12-month tenants. First off, who do you think Airbnb's in an apartment building? People throwing parties and stuff. So number one, liability. The liability was so much higher. Like our insurance premium was going to go up $12,000 because of allowing Airbnb, what's called subleasing, right? Letting someone to rent it and then sublease it out. Number 2, parties, noise complaints. The other tenants who are there, holding down jobs, just trying to, like, that's their home. They're having issues with it. And number 3, we had no idea who was coming in and out of the property. So just liability reasons. So that was our one experience with Airbnb inside of one of our apartments. So I wouldn't personally do it again.
Airbnb equals the hospitality business.
So if you're self-managing, okay, because I understand there's management companies who can, manage your rentals, but we self-manage. We've learned there's profit in self-managing. If you're self-managing a long-term rental, you are in the real estate business. Again, I put you in there, repairs, maintenance, utilities, like normal things I'm going to handle. You're not calling me about toilet paper. You're not calling me about, hey, how do I get to HBO on the TV? When you own Airbnb and you self-manage it, you are in the hospitality business. You are owning like a hotel. It's a customer service driven experience. So is long-term real estate, but less so. Like people are coming in and out. They want an experience. They're coming for a vacation. They're coming from travel. I think about the times when I Airbnb, dude, they put like wine out. They put like cheese out. They'd like put like a little binder together, right? Really, they made it really, really nice. They're competing with a hotel. Who's your competitor with Airbnb? Hotels. So you have to deliver like a hotel-like experience. We personally are just not set up to do that. We're personally not set up to handle those types of calls, that type of volume. Not only that, but the cleaning, right? The turnover. Again, think about it. You move out of or you leave a hotel, the sheets are pressed, the freaking little chocolates are put down, right? The whole hotel is like desanitized. You have to do that in an Airbnb. So the management is much more intense on an Airbnb. So it does not fit our business model. So just be aware of that. If you are going to self-manage it, you are more in the customer service and hospitality driven business than you are in the long-term real estate game.
It seems like there's more startup costs involved with Airbnb.
Well, think about it, right? I own houses and I have them as long-term rentals. I always hear from people like, oh, you need to Airbnb these out. You can make so much more money. Okay, so I have a house, 3-bedroom, 2-bath. It's about 1,200 square foot. I have to furnish the entire house to do Airbnb. So that means I I have to pay for the furniture from whatever. And even if you're like, well, just go buy Walmart furniture or IKEA furniture, who's going to want to stay there then? If it's like really cheap, like clunky furniture, like all the Airbnbs I've stayed in, they're at least like decently nice furniture. So I'm investing tens of thousands of dollars to put into the furniture. Who's going to build it? I'm not going to build it. I don't have time and energy to do that, right? So I have to pay someone to come build it, put it all together. That is, I mean, I'm imagining at least $20,000, $30,000 of startup costs to furnish a 3-bed, 2-bath house. That doesn't include outside either, because it has a deck, so people want to sit outside. So maybe 35, 40,000. I don't know. How am I ever going to recoup that? So I'm immediately going in the hole to have a furnished unit. So now I have to do my business plan and say, all right, I've invested whatever it costs for the rental, now 40,000 for the furniture. I need to make, maybe my first year of profit is gone just to break even. I personally don't like that. I like to know I buy a rental property, like I bought that house, I put a tenant in immediately, I'm starting to make profit immediately. They bring their own furniture, they're, involved with it. Plus, if they damage or cause issues to the furniture, those are just things you have to think about. Startup costs, right? I know a big issue why a lot of people don't get into real estate is because of the startup costs of like the down payment. But now you're doing the down payment plus the furniture, plus all the extra expenses. It's just those things you have to consider when it goes into the profit. Everyone focuses on profit. How much money could I make monthly with Airbnb? But think about all the expenses you have too. We used to say, like in business, revenue feeds the ego, profit feeds the family. It's not about how much revenue you're making. It's what you actually take home that matters. I guess it too depends on like where you live. Now, maybe if I lived in like Arizona or like Hawaii, but see again, I was just reading that Hawaii is starting to put down limitations. Because again, look at it like this. Who is Airbnb's competition? Hotels. What do let's just look at like Maui. Maui just had all those fires and all that. It's kind of remote. It's a beautiful place. My wife and I have been. Airbnb's there, right? What do hotels do on Maui? They provide jobs. So the Maui government, community government there, they don't want to see hotels go under because they know if hotels go under, they lose a lot of money from tourism. They lose jobs. It diminishes that local economy. So they're going to limit and restrict Airbnb. Again, be aware of that. I think there's so many challenges and adversities when it comes to owning real estate as is. Like when I own private real estate, my competition is other real estate investors. The government does not own real estate. They tried, they failed at it, they're not good at it. So they implore its private citizens to own real estate. When you own Airbnb, you're competing against the hotels. You're competing against the Marriotts. You're competing against the Hiltons. How are you going to beat a Marriott, man? Like, I mean, how are you going to beat like their freaking, pool and their jacuzzis and all that? It's just tough. It's really tough too. And now that the pandemic is over, in the pandemic, people wanted privacy. They wanted to stay in houses. Hotels are seeing like resurgence, right? More and more people are going to hotels. They want to be around other people again. They want to be in community centers. Like I know when I go travel, I don't want to stay in like a home by myself. I want to be around other people. I want to see other people doing stuff. I want to go to the restaurant in the hotel and eat around other people. I don't want to like go travel and cook, Again, that goes for a lot of different people, but I'm just saying these are things you have to consider. Hotels are on the up and up again. COVID days are behind us. So just be aware that is a huge competitor to Airbnb. So something else you have to really consider is like, Nick, when you go to pick an Airbnb, what do you kind of decide to look at?
Always read the reviews.
The reviews. It's tough. I mean, how do you stop someone who maybe like, I don't know, was just in a bad mood or where, and they leave a bad review? Like, right, I won't touch anything on Airbnb that has one bad review. So you're really living and dying on those customer reviews, which I guess if you really, take good care of it and, you provide a great service, you would hope you get good reviews. But like with rental properties, you don't really deal with that. Right now, if you own larger apartment complexes, you have like reviews on apartments.com and all that. But I'll be honest, I've never looked at a single apartment that didn't have bad reviews. They just kind of all have bad reviews, and like stuff like that. So Airbnb, you're living and dying more on those reviews. It's just, again, things to consider that you don't have when it comes to owning long-term investment properties.
Multifamily is always in need. Isn't that right, Tony?
Well, look at it like this. We're moving more to a renter nation, right? People are waiting longer and longer to buy homes. People are even deciding like, hey, maybe I don't want to own a home. The old like American dream, go to school, graduate from college, buy a home, live there for 30 years, pay it off, right? That's going away. People are mobile now. People love freedom. People love to be able to move. I think I read the statistic. The average person lives in their home for only 5 to 7 years before moving on again. With all that being said, people are always going to need a long-term place to stay. And for especially like the younger generation, people are moving, they're changing jobs, right? They're not staying in the same places. So renting is becoming a great option. investing, especially with interest rates the way that they are right now. Buying a home has become more and more expensive than ever before. So renting has become a great option for people. People will always need to live in rental homes and specifically multifamily apartments. People do not always need to travel to your Airbnb, especially look at like a recession, right? If a recession happens, what's one of the first things to go? Discretionary spending, travel and luxuries. That means travel to Airbnbs and hotels. Hotels see dips in recessions. People need a place to live, even during a recession. During a pandemic, people need a place to live. Think about the pandemic. Travel, and essentially the whole world came to a screeching halt. People still need a place to live. So again, just being aware with that. If I had discretionary income and I had money to like kind of speculate a little bit, okay, Airbnb. If I was so into it and I knew my business plan, and this is the advice to you, you have to do what's right for you. I'm not knocking Airbnb. I'm just explaining why I personally don't invest into it. When I invest money, I want a sure thing. I don't want to gamble. If I wanted to gamble, I go to Las Vegas. But I don't want to gamble when it comes to money. I want to know it's a sure thing. And I know when I buy an apartment building in a good area, I get long-term debt on it. I have cash flow. I have depreciation. I have long-term appreciation. I know the game of an apartment. I know that the NOI divided by the cap rate equals the valuation. I know if I can increase the income and decrease the expenses, I can increase the value of that apartment building. I can't lose my money. That's when I invest. That's when I go all in. Like we're self-funded. I'm not Blackstone. I don't have investors, right? We are self-funded. We know when we put our money in, we are going all in on this investment. You have to know the same. If you feel confident with Airbnb to do that and all the intangibles out there, great. I like sure things. I've said it over. I'll say it again. I use real estate as a way to get really wealthy, really slow. So I'm okay if I own a rental property and it only pays me $100 a month. If I know long-term, I'm getting great appreciation in it. And in multifamily, I know I can control that valuation, right? I know I can force that valuation up. I know I can decrease the expenses and increase the income and make that apartment worth more money. Airbnb, maybe you can make it worth more money by, renovating it and all that, but you're dealing with more of the comparable sales. It's just a different business model. What's right for you? That's up to you.
Would you ever consider doing Airbnb on, say, a vacation property?
Two things with that of why no. Number one, the worst piece of tax advice I was ever given was you're making good money in your business, go buy a second home. Go buy a second home. You can travel there a little bit. You can rent it out if you want, but we can write it off. Why was that a bad piece of advice? Because the person was essentially telling me, go buy a liability that I have to pay for every single month for a tax write-off. That is the worst piece of tax advice you could ever get. You never buy a liability just to get a deduction. I can buy assets, real estate, that cash flow and still get a deduction, still get depreciation, still get tax benefits. So there's a better way of doing it. So that's number one. I don't like any strategy that says spend money to save money, because then you're really not saving money. Or like when you see these influencers like, I bought this car and I get a huge tax write-off, but you still had to pay for the car and the car is going to depreciate. What about buying an asset that will appreciate, but that cash flows every month that I don't have to pay for and still get a tax benefit? That's multifamily investing. And number two, personally, I don't like people staying in my home. I just don't. I don't like to, like, if it's my home and it's like my stuff, then to be like someone like slept in my bed. Like me personally, I don't like that. Now, if you like that, that's cool. But that's why I personally don't like that strategy. So, hey, if you enjoyed this, let us know. Do you do Airbnb? Do you do multifamily? What do you prefer? Let us know. Leave us a comment below. As always, thank you so much for being here. And until next time, we'll talk soon. Thanks.